Hi everyone, you're listening to the Vialucci podcast, uncensored and completely unedited discussions about life and everything in it. We hope you enjoy the show.
Timing.
3, 2, 1, and
action.
We're here. Yeah. Well, not so
Hi,
much
everyone.
action.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Before, Andrew, you're back.
I am.
Well.
Wellity. Loco came crawling back from the place he hadn't crawled away to.
Yeah. Well, we should say, the world of script writing and script editing and spelling in general was so appalling that we had to cast Andrew ashore. We pushed him off in a little boat to go and sort it all out. I was on, what did I see the other day? It was another one on Yahoo. Something, I was looking at the article, random word that made no sense to the article. If you're dyslexic, I say go and read Yahoo News articles because it will make you feel good about yourself.
Are they hiring?
No, it's horrendous. I sent you that one where there was a fire, but there was a fire somewhere.
Oh, it rings a bell, but I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
I sent it to you, and it was like the fire was thought to start at around 10:12 the PM. The fire engine turned up a few minutes later at 10 PM. I thought,
yeah, it was something very.
That's
it
pretty
was very
quick.
strange. Yeah.
I mean, because you basically have to go faster than the speed of light to get there beforehand. So
Yeah, that was a shoddy copy of it.
but it's
Well,
always
A lot of these, I've seen some articles recently where they've been saying that actually this is generated by an algorithm.
oh right, like an AI.
Yeah, there is an AI. There's an AI has written this, but it was checked over by an editor before putting on the website.
But I would think it would be more specific if an AI was doing it. It would be more. Bang on, no.
No.
Well, it might be from a newswire. You know what I mean? It might be from a news service like Reuters or whatever. Or
No, but they do have names on the articles on the who writes them.
okay, well,
You just make
that might be a real one then. But like I'm
But
just
they're
saying that
definitely not checking them.
I have seen sort of ones now, sort of literally articles generated by computer.
I
mean,
reckon. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think the big issue now is that obviously because news is so driven by who can get the exclusive, who can get the story out
Yeah.
first, who can get eyeballs on it first, that there's no time to kind of properly proof. I see it on the BBC News as well many times where you can practically almost see, oh, this is what the sentence was going to be originally. They've changed it slightly, but then forgotten to change either the bit in the middle or the end, and so it's
But see, these things are all right if you're a podcast and you're knocking them out. If you're the BBC with unlimited funds,
Are we just making excuses for ourselves?
No, well, it is what
very
it is.
much so. Yes.
Or if you're a Yahoo, which is worth a few quid, all the excuses are gone
right now.
All the excuses are gone. No, there's no. You're not running it. There's not a couple of students. Right? You don't have that excuse. You do not have that excuse.
Quite poorly, because I imagine a lot of these companies. Now, I'm not saying in case the lawyers are listening, but companies like Yahoo, etc., will often pay very poorly because they know that some people want to have that particular company's name on their CV. So
Yeah, but to the detriment of your
well, they don't
quality.
give a shit.
Yeah,
Isn't there like a quality
They don't
controller? I mean, I'm
No
sure
one
that's an
gives a
editor.
don't care.
But this is not.
No one cares.
I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying no one gives a shit anymore.
You're expecting the management care. They don't care. They're just there to get cash.
Because it's a merry-go-round as well. They'll be working on. I'm just putting names out that hat, but it's like they'll do 6 months at Yahoo, then they'll do 6 months at MSN UK, then they'll do 6 months at this place. They're just there to churn out content.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Because the internet just drinks content. So just
and
get the
and you
fucking
fail
content out.
upwards.
That doesn't matter. Yeah, well, there is that massively.
Yeah, because you do 6 months here, a year there, and then you just get promoted and you work your way up. Yeah, doesn't matter how good or bad you are at a job, just matters you stick in there. Yeah,
But it's just.
which is great for people like me.
Yeah, but I understand all that. But it doesn't. Spelling is a pretty big part of writing basic art. They're not writing books that are unchecked. These are 2-page articles, and and that's stuff that I notice. Like spelling words that aren't in
I'm
there.
not agreeing with
times
that. It's just no one gives a shit anymore.
Yeah, the Guardian website's quite bad for that, and I find like
Really?
grammatical errors and stuff. That
Wow.
I'm like, and the was, and I'm like, even I'm noticing that with my dyslexia.
I don't accept any.
Are you
of it.
dyslexic, Charles? I didn't know that.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Oh, don't try to jump on the bandwagon.
Jumping on the old
bandwagon.
dyslexic bandwagon.
I think
All the
everyone's
kids
got a mild.
these days.
We're all sort of disabled now. We've all got something, haven't we? It's a variation.
I suppose to a degree that's kind of true in the sense that we recognise that there is no such thing as a person who is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
normal in inverted commas is just what's taken from a mean average.
Yeah, I wonder when I do laugh when if I was to go in a disabled toilets, which I don't, but if I did, I like when there's a sign outside that gives me it says not all disabilities are visible, and I think well, in a court of law,
well, but your baldness is visible.
If I was to go in there, I said if I was.
It's like that bit in. Have you seen that Curb Your Enthusiasm, where like the guy comes out the disabled toilet? Yeah.
Oh, he's got a stutter.
And he's got stutter, and he's got, I've got the
yeah.
stutter, you prick. And he's just like, all right. And then he goes to the disabled toilet, and he comes out and goes, I've got the stutter, you prick. And everyone's like, fuck off.
So before we start the podcast, I was talking about going to Africa or Egypt or where. On the way back.
Topical,
Yeah.
no, because you got caught up in politics.
I had to go back to the hotel, then come back again and all that. That wasn't the main problem. Was that where we were in the airport, there was no Wi-Fi and you couldn't use the phone. So that's good. You just sat there doing nothing.
Do you not have a book?
No. I can read a book. I can listen to an audiobook, but then you become sort of just
Get a
staring off into the
Walkman
distance.
with a cassette.
Oh, and I got an ear infection, so in one ear I completely couldn't hear anything, and the other ear I could only hear half. So when everyone was sat there doing nothing, I was trying to get up and talk to people and get them to find out what the hell was going on. But it was like I couldn't hear anything, so I felt sort of trapped. Like I was getting a bit claustrophobic because I couldn't communicate with anybody, and I'm not sitting there just waiting for somebody to sort something out. I want to talk to somebody that tells me what's going on, but I couldn't hear anything, so I was like in this weird place. But anyway, on the way back to the hotel, out of the hotel, on the way back, or whichever way before we was doing it, there was like you get out the big part of Egypt, which is Hurghada, which is like the whole city has been built for the tourists. I'm talking about a 20-minute drive of like plush 5-star hotel.
Where is that in the country?
I don't know. I ain't got a clue.
Is that sort of north near the?
I haven't got a clue.
the
I forgot. I didn't know it was in it.
Okay.
It's about 20 minutes.
Did you know that you were in Egypt?
Yeah, I didn't know it was Africa. Oh, listen, that's just geography. There's no need for me to have known that. But I knew I was in Egypt.
Sherlockian with you.
Yeah, what was the... But anyway, so on the way back, so obviously you get to the... well, it was started because the hotel we was in was very nice. Like I said, 5-star hotel, really big. You know, the band, you know, the thing we was talking about, you know, your...
Oh, yeah.
All that sort of
all
stuff.
inclusive, all inclusive, yeah.
And then, because it's me, on the second day when I'm walking down the hallway there was a door open. And inside there was like dirty plates. And it's clearly where the workers had to stay. No window, just a small room with dirty plates and looked like a blanket, but it might have been a towel or something like that. And then I was like, oh, for Christ, why did I have to look in that room? Because from then on, I just felt bloody guilty that's where they've put them. There was no window in there. That was the thing as well, no window. And just a stack of plates in this room on the same landing as where the flats were. And then every single time I looked them in the face, they're all smiling and happy. And how are you? And I just thought, I feel guilt. I felt like a great grandson of a plantation owner who had met the relatives, and I just had this guilt every time.
Did you pay reparations?
Yeah. But every single time after I looked them in the face, I felt bad because they were actually genuinely quite happy. And I thought they shouldn't be shoving you in that bloody room. So every time it ruined the sort of the feel of the hotel because I knew they weren't being treated badly. But
there was exploitation afoot.
You couldn't finish that third filet mignon. To stop.
I just had to throw it away. I had to throw it in the bin.
I pulled that fourth bottle of champagne down the sink.
And it disgust.
But it genuinely annoyed me. And then I got annoyed at getting annoyed. But then I felt guilty because I just thought, why did I have to look in that room? Why did the door have to be open? Anyway, but on the way back...
Fingers crossed they're paid reasonably well.
I was thinking...
Fingers crossed. I mean, who knows,
I was looking at them and I think they don't look miserable. They're not faking the happiness. So maybe this is a good job for them. And
some of those tourist jobs do pay relatively well compared to the, hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah.
I saw once, it was near the last night, where we'd finished eating and then we was there late and the workers came in with their plates and ate ate the same as the food that we were eating, and I thought, okay, that
That's
maybe
good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
yeah.
That's very common though in like restaurants and things, isn't it? The staff will eat.
Yeah,
It might have been kept under the hot light in the interim, but they'll eat what the
yeah.
what
No,
the
and I thought,
customers
well,
eat.
okay, that says something about everything else.
Yeah.
But on the way back, I can't remember which way we were going, but I think it was the first time when we got sent back from the airport. We got to the outskirts of the city, and then you start to see what Egypt really looks like. The bit derelict things and shops, roads with like boulders everywhere that people are driving around to get to their flat like it's nothing. Anyway, and no, I mean, do mean like rocks
Boulders?
everywhere. Like if a bomb went off and blew up some like flats.
Yeah.
And it was like half empty. There was no windows, but people were clearly living there because there was towels and things. But like rubble everywhere, and they're just driving in between the rubble to get to their
Have you
flat.
ever been to Birmingham?
Yeah.
You southerner.
I lived in Birmingham for 2 years.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
I can.
For 2 years.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
so
2 years, man.
but on
My
the way
butler
back,
told me it was ghastly.
on the way back, there was like a shop that was like derelict, and there was a wall at the side of the shop, and somebody had written on the wall, "Living is hard," and I was like, "Fuck! Why did I have to see that?" Because it was the. If it had been sort of more angry, sort of "fuck you, government," or it felt right. But somebody that put "living is hard," not "life is shit." No, do you know what I mean? Nothing like angry. It was "living is hard." And but here's the other thing: it was written in English, which I thought, why was it written in English? Because that's surely for the tourists. Is that to say like?
That's probably, but that's just emo. That's nothing. Sorry, Charles. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say,
Well.
I was in Pest, which is the poorer part of Budapest. Budapest being 2 cities, Buda and Pest.
Oh right, I didn't realise.
I stayed in the shit part, and there was a bit of graffiti, and there's not a day goes past when I don't think about this. And it said, "Fuck your money, bitch."
In Athens, there's I forget the name of the district. It begins with an O, and it's historically, because it's where one of the universities is, and it's often been a place where people have sort of protested against the government. And obviously, we think of Greece as just as any other kind of modern liberal democracy, but actually, it did, as with many other parts of Europe until recently, have sort of quasi-fascistic kind of governments. I think they were communist dictatorship, I believe,
And far left. I mean, they had like the I've forgotten the name. The October things, the Red Dawn and stuff.
So they've kind of swung all both ways, haven't they?
Real militia groups. Yeah.
Yeah, they tend not to do. Golden Dawn. Is it Golden Dawn? Anyhow, but this area that was kind of historically has always been a bit anti-establishment and whatnot. And they've got a real problem because it's sort of trendy and it's known for its graffiti and whatnot. So it's becoming very gradually more gentrified, but there's this kind of batting back against that. And the thing that they're really opposed to is Airbnb. And there are lots of banners there. And the guidebook I had, because I didn't particularly know. I didn't know sort of ancient Greek history, but not modern. And it said just be mindful of not being too. Take pictures of the graffiti and whatnot. Don't be there late at night. Don't be there at, if you know that there's a protest going on. Don't be too obviously like gaudily kind of touristy. But they had lots of banners and things like, fuck Airbnb. We're struggling.
Why do they don't like Airbnbs? Tourism.
Well, it's because it's not so much tourism. I mean, because obviously Greece, enormous amount of its
part of the economy.
is
So
tourism.
what's the problem?
But their issue is that people are someone middle classy or whatnot buys a flat in this area, and then rents it out at hideous prices for Airbnb, which the local people wouldn't be able to afford, and it just forces up the rent, and everyone else keeps all the property just ends up becoming Airbnb because it's a relatively cheaper part of Athens to stay in, but you're close to Athens is very much, broadly speaking, you can walk most of it. They do have a very efficient tube system, but you could walk most of it. So you can walk into all the, the famous parts, so the Acropolis and whatnot.
So it's relatively. What's the population? I don't even know roughly.
I couldn't say, but it's
relative. It's not a huge. It's not like London. It's more.
The suburbs are kind of sprawling. Yeah, the suburbs are sprawling, but certainly all the bits that you would want to go and see are kind of relatively condensed. Certainly all the ancient parts of it are easily coverable on foot, but most of it you can walk.
But it's quite specific to say Airbnb specific.
That was a big thing. I think they're also just generally against this whole sort of hipster kind of, there's lots of graffiti, some of it, and often, so they did talk about political movements, about sort of example that, students who might have been arrested and oops, they tripped and fell in their cell and accidentally cut their own head off, sort of thing. Going back, and there was I wish I could remember more of the sort of history of the area, but there was lots of things about that, and sort of people that were deemed to be political martyrs. I'm not going to fall down on either side because I don't know the history well enough, but so there was lots of political graffiti, but then there was kind of taking the piss out of it. So there was one son which I did take and put on Instagram because I thought it was funny and kind of ironic. The graffiti simply said, this would be a great Instagram opportunity. Like that. But it was next to a sort of political mural, so it's sort of taking the piss of like, for you, this is you thinking like, oh, I can stand in front of here and do the duck face and peace sign and whatnot, hashtag, and it's people's
hashtag. There you go.
It's that kind of crap. I mean, it's I don't mean that literally. I'm just being.
Can you get any philosophy out of hashtag?
I'm sure someone. Well, there's lots of crap on there, isn't there? Well, I mean, I've been off Instagram for 6 months or something like that. But there's lots of COD.
6 months clean, yeah.
6 months clean. I don't particularly miss it actually.
It's a shame. Back out the street. You have to be in by 11.
Yeah. Otherwise, the curfew. They'll say, "Why aren't you doing it?" What's that quote? It's that. It's to do with madness, and it said that soon all the mad people started saying that. You were mad, and the only way they deemed who was mad was to just point and say, "Why weren't you?" I can't remember the quote.
I get what you're trying to get at, but yeah,
it was just about who spots the madman and who identifies.
We do live in a car too. The level of technological addiction, it goes so fast. Like you try and keep up with it. But like in the gyms, I remember...
He said, bemoaning the fact that there wasn't Wi-Fi in the airport, and he...
no, that's basic. That's to do with I couldn't communicate.
I see. Okay.
No, but like...
The Wi-Fi was spotty at best.
Yeah.
2 stars.
I couldn't book my Airbnb.
My fast five-star hotel. Yeah. But I think I sort of got a grip on how bad everything is, and then new stuff will emerge immediately. And I'm thinking, I can't keep up. So like, there is the thing of mobile phones in gyms. Just there was one, then there was two, then it was like 28 days later. When she's talking about the fact that the zombies were, they were on the news. There was outbreaks. Then they were in your city, and then they were at your door. I felt like that was. So in the gyms, it's like now everyone's got a phone. Now that person running's on the phone. Now that person's on a squat machine doing the phone. And then the other day, I saw a guy doing bicep curls, and he had the phone in one hand while he was doing curls with the other. Then swapped the phone for them and was on the phone. And I was like, Jesus Christ!
I mean, if I was being charitable, I would hope to think that he's. Reading some rep guide, but I expect
no. He was with his mate, and they were showing something about a girl because he was right next to me when he was doing it. And
they're probably sending that video to they're probably filming and sending it to her.
Oh,
I have my phone to record because it's better than having a sweaty old notepad. It's to do what are you?
No, this isn't. They're showing pictures of Instagram girls. YouTube's the thing, because that was the thing I noticed was a guy next to me, and he's doing his leg curls or whatever, and I looked, and he was just going through YouTube, just scrolling down. I thought
zero attention span is there,
but that's proper junkie. Like everything. The guy was dropping the weight before he got the phone out.
Fair enough if you're looking for something. Okay, well, pop on a 20-minute
No.
video.
It's
just something to listen to or play while I'm doing something else. You know what I mean? That's one thing. But it's when I see people driving. Yeah, I always say this. Like if I see someone driving and they're alone in a car, there's about 1 in 3 chance that I'll see them just going.
Yeah. Especially in traffic. Yeah.
And while they're going down the motorway, while they're going down an A road, while they turn on a roundabout, like
it's just how needless it is. Like people scrolling, they're not doing anything. Their attention has to keep moving, even amongst while you're exercising. Not repetition. You're doing a short burst exercise, but you're still the screen, the addiction to the screen.
It's a little like sort of people, that sort of oral fixation thing of like, very common with smokers. So that if they're not smoking, then they have to be chewing gum. If they're not chewing gum, then they have to be biting their nails. There has to be something to occupy.
But it's the fact that that's a proper problem with the brain.
Can you relate, Charles?
No idea what you're talking about.
Oh, that was a bit pornographic.
That was.
Oh, how are you feeling? He was poorly, but he crawled into the studio last week.
Oh,
you did
yeah,
say
my
he
back's
was
a lot
sick.
better,
Back.
thanks. Yeah,
Is it back
yeah.
better?
What did you do
How-
to your back?
It was.
Is it a
stress.
safe conversation to have on?
No, it was just
We're not
honest,
on
honest
OnlyFans
to goodness,
yet.
it was stress. It was, but I've had a lot going on. I saw someone get sectioned today. I'll tell you about that later. Anyway.
Hang on, before we
Are
come
you
back.
allowed to tell us
How's
about
your?
that?
Yeah. I saw. Was it a family member? Oh, how's your nana?
A bit better.
Oh,
What
she's still in the
happened- what
hospital.
happened?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Charles
Yeah,
nearly got kicked out of a hospital.
Yes, but she's
He
a
had
bit
to
better.
use his Buddhist calm.
Sorry. There's a lot to unpack here.
Oh yeah,
so-
while you've been away, mate, life doesn't
Oh
stop.
yeah, lots going on. My aunt's been in hospital for a
So
while.
your nana's been poorly.
Yeah,
My
she's
aunt.
serious as well.
Your aunt,
Yeah.
oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry. So your aunt's
Bit-
been quite poorly.
Yeah.
Hang on, what's your nana then?
What?
What's a nan? I thought nan was your aunt.
Grandma.
Oh,
No, Nana's
is
your
your-
grandmother.
yeah,
So what we're saying is it wasn't his nana, it was the aunt. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
fine. But she's been poorly, but she's now...
Yes. Well, I'll come out. So yeah, we had a call on Wednesday from the doctor, and he said, well, it was the call. It was the call. They said, well,
Oh, my goodness.
there's nothing much we can do for her. We're doing as much as we can.
Okay,
Fortunately, she's not getting better.
right.
She's probably only got. a
You
few
don't
more
have to
days
talk
left.
about this if you don't want
No,
to.
well, it's very strange. And then we went there, and then she was quite chirpy, like thinking she was the best. We've seen her for a bit, and then I went Friday, and she was sort of better. And I went
Okay.
today, and she was a bit tired, but she was looking a lot better. And actually, since they've said there's nothing much we can do with her, it's on her. Thank goodness, thank God.
So
or
she
whatever.
sort of rallied from that.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
that's
she really
excellent
has. Yeah, and I think they gave her the talk as well. She's
Oh,
a bit
okay.
belligerent. She's one of my family, right?
So she was
she's a bit
stubborn.
belligerent. Yeah, she's very stubborn. I always used to joke. It's a surprise she's been so ill because I always used to joke that she would outlive me. She's like 74.
I mean, don't damn her with that kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
poor
Touch wood.
diagnosis,
Touch wood.
One of the, we're gonna, I'm sure Theo and I will have to have the chat about when we have to weekend at Bernie's you on the podcast, just operate you by string,
like the Queen. Yeah,
Just like-
the Queen after the Jubilee. Yeah.
spaghetti man eat with his hands. Like, that's a callback for our
yes.
ancient
Yeah.
listeners.
So I had to explain that to someone. I said, I don't think the Queen's going to make it to the Jubilee. And I said, I think they're going to weekend at Bernie's here. And my mate works like, what? And I was like,
What
"It's an
a
80s
shameful
movie."
thing to have to explain to someone.
Yeah,
Like,
it's an 80s.
this is an actual film that a major motion picture Hollywood studio signed. Many people had to sign off upon
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
It spawned 2 sequels, at least,
possibly at
certainly
least.
one.
Yeah,
Because
I
there was
think
one he
or
went on
two, yeah.
holiday, wasn't there? For
Yeah.
goodness me.
It was on BBC. I swear I watched it on BBC One.
So for people who have mercifully lived a blessed life, touched by the angels, where they have not seen Weekend at Bernie's, it's where is it their boss? I've blotted so much from my mind. It's so horrendous.
been
He
so
essentially
long.
dies. I think they're looking after him or something, aren't they?
No,
Or
they get the week. He says that they can borrow his weekend house.
This is Bernie.
No,
This is the
sorry,
eponymous
his
Bernie.
summer home by
Oh,
the
right,
beach. I think it's in the Hamptons, and then they get down there and they're like, "Oh, we're going to party on the Hamptons. It's going to be amazing. We're going to meet loads of hot chicks and hot babes." And then they get down there and they find him dead in the house, and they're like, and they don't want to report it for reasons.
Because it said so in the script.
Yeah,
That's
because the
why.
plot needs to happen, basically. And then they just rig him up like a marionette, basically.
This is so, ladies
It's
and gentlemen, this is so.
When you explain it, it's
Yeah,
really, it's really
and you sound
horrifying.
like you feel like people would think, oh yeah, you're just taking the piss. That's not what this is. They
You have to be
they
there.
certainly the sequel. One of the sequels, they take him on holiday. The sort of logistics of like God, he must absolutely stink at that point. And they take him they don't take him to Norway. Excuse me. They don't take him Norway sledding. They take him to somewhere tropical, I seem to recall.
Really like Mexico, Cancun
and you're just like, good luck. Why isn't he green? There's no truth in this art.
With the 80s, we weren't so fussy then. We just
no, but it is a very strange. I'm sure they'll do a remake.
So your nana's what? Yeah, go on.
So your auntie's all better.
Yes.
Now.
So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay,
hopefully
good.
she's turned a corner. Still a long way to go. I was in the hospital this morning, and I saw a guy get sectioned. So that sort of, I was like, okay.
Oh, I thought this
hospital
was in
it?
relation to your work. So I was like, you're allowed to tell us.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
No,
what hospital was it?
Frimley Park, which is in Surrey.
How did that play out?
Yeah.
There was an old chap with an open head wound.
Oh,
I'm not going to play this for laughs because it's not funny. However, okay, I'm not going to play it for laughs. But there was an old guy with an open head wound, and he was sort of walking out. I stopped because I went to the loo. He was literally stopped out front of the toilet, so I need to go for a quick pee before I went in. Anyway, and then all of a sudden, 2 security guards stepped up in front of him, and said, "Sir, you can't leave. You can't leave." And I was thinking, all right.
I mean, that doesn't seem unreasonable.
What's up with that though? And he's just like, no, I'm fine. Get out of my way. And then this nurse jumped and said, we're sectioning him.
Oh Christ!
And
Lord.
and they were like, right, we're sectioning him. And section 19. And they went, right, under section 19, I'm sectioning under the Mental Health Act. You can't leave. And then he was about late 60s, maybe early 70s. He was tall, like 6'5". Thin as a rake, right? Not muscular, but like tall, big. 2 little squat security guards, 2 nurses, right? And he's just like, no, get out of my way. They blocked him, like physically, like they weren't, but they were like, oh no, sir, no. And they tried to block him, and then he just walked through them and then pushed these 4 people along the corridor.
Bloody hell.
And they were like, we're sectioning you. And he's just like, no, you're not. And I was like, interesting tactic there. And he was just like, no, you can't leave. And he goes, yes, I can. And I was like, checkmate. I was like, this is...
You are a crafty opponent, sir.
Yeah, I was like, not much you can do with this. I was like, this is interesting. And so I went for a pee and came back, and then they were trying to get him into a chair. And they were like, get him in the chair. Again, I'm not trying to play this for. Yeah. So they pushed him down to some wheelchair, and they were holding his arms, and he's just like, and he was going, no, and he'd go, no, sir, you've had a fall yesterday, and this is why you're in hospital. This is why you've got you've got head injury. You really can't leave, And he's just like, no, that's ancient history. That happened ages ago. Don't worry about it. He goes, I need to go to the shops and go see my wife.
Oh, I see. Because of his head injury, he's obviously not.
Well, they said he had dementia as well. So as I said, it's not nice.
Fine.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not a good situation. But then he started walking backwards. These 2 security guards and the 2 nurses were holding him into the chair, but he was sort of walking backwards with his feet. And then he was just going backwards out of the hospital. And they couldn't stop this dude. He was like...
Well, that's why they couldn't exactly pile on him, because it's not his fault. He's not an aggressive. He doesn't know where he is, sort of thing.
He was being quite forceful, though. I mean, they are, when they've sectioned him, I think they are within their rights to use physical restraint.
Yeah, but when somebody just doesn't know where they are, you wouldn't feel right sort of just grabbing them and pushing them on the floor. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they're also already disoriented anyway, aren't you? So you are suddenly, from
unless he hit you or something, you wouldn't really want to put your hands on them.
No,
reasonable restraint. I think that's the thing. They have to be careful legally. I think it's reasonable restraint. But they did read they read the Mental Health Act kind of thing. They use the terminology or whatever, and they were getting 2 doctors down, I think, to because there has to be 2 doctors to sort of sign it off or whatever. But I was like, because I was going to visit my aunt with my mum, and she went to the loo as well. So I was outside the toilet, and it was just happening right there in front of me, and I was just like, I don't see this every day,
Can you use your phone in a hospital? Can you get your phone out?
No, well, yes, but I got told off, and they said that they tried to call security.
Yeah, what was the story? You nearly got kicked out. You was telling me a few weeks ago.
No, because I got angry with the nurse. Don't worry about it.
Right, okay.
I got an A thrown out of ICU. So
well, I'm glad she's doing all right.
Thank you.
To jump at the Andrew, you said you went to see Jurassic Park. Was that
Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah. Is it the final one? Because that's the only reason you should be allowed to go.
No, it's not going to go. It's not going to be. Well,
I thought they were throwing
it's
everything.
It's billed as, the final chapter. But you'll be shocked to hear that some dinosaurs do make it through to the end. Spoiler alert. In fact, most of them.
But the thing is with Jurassic
and
Park,
they're now in a protected area, and you go, wasn't that the end of the second one?
But they've done nothing more than the first one did. God knows how long ago. Like graphics sort of look the same. The story.
There's a couple of really odd ones here. You're like, oh, that could have been a bit better superimposed.
So
he's obviously against a green screen.
The only reason you would see this one is because they say, look, we know we haven't done anything different for the last decade, but this is the last one. We're getting all the characters back. This is it. And then you go,
yeah,
okay,
I suppose that's the only real.
But if that's not the last one, then well, forget it. Then.
Well, yeah, but what they'll probably do is, I expect, and the reviews have been. Unkind. I think. Well, I was saying to Charles and Kerem, I think, there's lots of if you sort of look online, and it's another one where there's a disparity between the audience
and critics,
review and the critical one. Yeah, these sort of professional critics. But I do think it's one of those ones where in some sort of weird hive mind, the critics went, let's pile in on this one. Not like they all rang each other up and text it. But, one starts in, another starts, and they all pile in. I mean, they do talk to each other because there are press screenings, there are critic screenings. Part of this, one has to be registered.
I think it's easy to pick on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm like, look, this film's got dinosaurs in, and most, this film's got dinosaurs in, and most films don't have dinosaurs.
Story
in
a paragraph or two. What's the story?
So it's set, I think, in the equivalent of real time after the previous film, so Fallen Kingdom, and now dinosaurs are sort of on the loose in the world. There's different thoughts about what to do with dinosaurs. Some people poach them, some people are putting them into protected areas, whatnot. There are some very strange moments. So there's some pterodactyls that live on top of what's the new World Trade Center, Freedom Tower.
Freedom,
they're just there on a nest. I'm like, I'm sure they wouldn't. No one would.
Did they have
do
a sort of Joe Exotic home footage of a bloke who's got his own Tyrannosaurus?
No, but they do. There is certainly like the hint that kind of thing is going on. There is an illegal.
That's a film. That's the film right there. Is you have a shitty zoo with like a Joe Exotic. That's the
people getting killed.
They do have things like so people.
I watched that. That's great.
Yeah, there's a mix of things like that. So there's it's the idea that in some places it's not a problem, others it is, because if they're living in a national park, it doesn't matter. There's bears there that will eat you anyhow.
Right, yeah.
And so there's another evil genetic engineering company that are doing...
Working for the military?
No, actually, they're working for themselves. So they're breeding they're using crazy sort of Cretaceous era DNA gene wibbly wobbling to make giant locusts. They're fucking huge. That eat crops, but they only eat crops that aren't also genetically engineered by the same company. So it's essentially an attempt.
Such a weak idea.
It's a very odd. I enjoyed it. It was good fun. I mean, it's sort of you pay your tickets. You say, "Can I have a film with dinosaurs in?" And they say, "Well, do you know what, sir? We just happen to have
Godfather 2."
Yeah, you know what I mean. So I mean, there's probably less dinosaurs than I might have liked, but to be fair, I'd be quite happy if they just did a
what's the locust to Dinus ratio we're going for?
It's probably about 50-50, frankly.
Oh, really?
So it is a little bit. There are some big swipes.
Quite locust heavy.
Yeah, but or just you're like, well, this is a bit more about locusts than dinosaurs than expected. However, they do kind of use them quite effectively. They're sort of creepy. There's some interesting. I don't want to spoil it because there are some kind of fun set pieces in it, some gnarly bits where you're like, oh, and it's the I was saying before we started recording, it does have those kind of moments where you're like, oh, I might lift my feet off the floor here, or you sort of
have they done the thing that they like with Logan, or have they done a graphic Jurassic Park? Is with like, okay, you wanted like non-kids film.
No, they haven't. I must say, actually, there was some very
good idea. Yeah, when they've run out like a couple of years' time,
the people that are sick of it, like the Disney,
and those kind of R-rated. The problem is that would be difficult to explain to the kiddies. That
but then Logan is the same sort of thing. Just make it more towards the adult.
Yeah, but I feel like the X-Men films was a bit.
Yeah, you call it like something else.
Nightmare, Jurassic Nightmare or something.
Yeah.
I mean, there was going to be one of the very strange, crazy concepts that they ended up being sort of spilled out across probably most of these Jurassic World films was that there was going to be some crazy castle in, deepest, darkest Europeshire, because obviously that's scary for Americans. I think in some old Nazi castle or whatnot, that people were, so you can obviously see shades of Fallen Kingdom in this bit, that but they were gene splicing raptors with, you can go online and see some insane concept art of like raptors, but with like buff arms so they can hold machine guns and stuff. This was with Spielberg's involvement. That guy kind of got vetoed. But yeah, there's, it's good fun. Don't, go see a film with it's got dinosaurs in it. The characters.
And what about the old
bland.
actors coming back? Did that work?
Yeah, that was good fun. I mean, sort of, again afterwards we were a bit like, I don't remember Ian Malcolm, that's Jeff Goldblum's character, being quite so Jeff Goldblum-y as he is in this film. This film, it's basically just Jeff Goldblum. They were like,
I do think that as the actors go on, then when they get to that age where they are superstars, they just can't be bothered to act. They're just them on the screen.
Yeah, but that's also what you pay for. You pay, in the old days, it was very much that there was the persona of the person, wasn't there? So John Wayne, he was like, can you just stand there, say Pilgrim, and shoot 5 people very quickly and tip your cap afterwards? And he was like, sure, Pilgrim. And they were like, no, wait till the camera starts rolling. Okay,
save
Pilgrim.
that. That's good.
Fine,
Save it for the film.
Yeah, exactly. Save
I
the
said
Pilgrim
listen
for
to
the
the
camera.
podcast. The director is the guy that was working on it told his son, who's now in the film, he literally said to the guy, John Wayne, can you do it less John Wayne? And he said to him, but I am John Wayne. And he go, all right, I'm done.
Whatever. Like, don't hide John Wayne and then expect him to do the Robert De Niro like performance. You know what I mean?
I was listening to there was a radio. I don't know why it just tickled me. It was a radio. I sat in the car and the radio was on, and they were talking about the new Elvis film that was coming out, and it said what was the word? But the audiences say it's electrifying, and I thought that is the most hollow, arbitrary statement. Hang on. So firstly, audiences. Well, any more specific?
Many have said.
Yeah.
Many have said.
But I thought
Many people, a
audiences.
lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's the most ambiguous word you could use in the English language. Audiences. Well, what, mate? What location?
But they do polling for. So I think it's called the system. I don't think they take words for it, but they call a thing. It's called Cinema Score, and I think it's more an American thing. But the idea is that they just do polling.
But you got to count audiences is so nothing. It's but
that's what they do. They just come out and say, what would you give that on an A to?
But here's the other thing as well. That's half of it. The other thing is they use the word electrifying.
Yeah, no one used that word.
Are you a journalist? Because I don't know that's a word that people use.
People would have said it was great, it was fun.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that people...
It's electrifying.
Yeah, that's not to say that people have limited, that they wouldn't use that kind of word. But it's like, you wouldn't say, oh, what was this film like? Oh, it's electrifying. You go, yeah, it was really good, actually. So that's someone with a clipboard going, would you go so far as to say it's electrifying?
Yeah.
Well, that's
probably. Great big fucking tick. Make sure we quote this.
Vomit-inducing.
Sleep-worthy.
Yeah, electrifying, yeah.
But the fact they bolted them both together, audiences, and say it's electrifying. That is nothing.
But
said nothing.
They're doing
there.
a lot more of that. They, it's sort of creeping in, because I think that, again, there is this disparity between critics and audience goers, and you're seeing lots of, I can't recall, there was another film very recently that had, awful reviews and quite very positive, audience reviews. I mean, Dominion, as I say, I think there's a weird thing with critics where there's a lot. The first very big first wave were giving it 1 and 2 stars or whatever, the equivalent of, certainly, and then another wave of critics going, yeah, they're just being silly. It's fine. It's like it's like a 5 out of 10.
Well, that's the thing with critics have gone way up their own backsides. They think they are more. Like, who are you to be calling something?
But it's also because that's what gets eyeballs. So it's a bit like when people.
That's what I mean. Their career is more important than it's like.
So
what
if
do
I say
it's
garbage bilge, and I come up with some really, brilliant kind of superlatives or something that sounds very.
By saying it's fine, you're not going to get nothing. Like,
if you say this is a cinematic abortion, then people will read. Yeah, it's very Trumpy. But they'll say things like that. They'll be like, "This film is enough," and they'll just go off on these rant, and they'll say like, "I'm not saying this film's awful, but I think Colin Trevorrow should refund everyone personally, and his mother should have to go on a speaking tour where she apologised for raising a son." And they just go on, and I mean, I'm just being silly there, but you do get these kind of rants
when they have
you're just one clicks.
that say, audience say it's electrifying. Can you just can they just make that up? Yeah, VLUTCI podcast. Audience say it's electrifying. And go,
probably not, because it is advertising, but you can be a bit false. And it's very famously I say famously, but it sort of came out that it was the film. It's about the craze, but I can't remember because there's been 70,000 films about the craze. The one where Tom Hardy played both
twins.
Legend.
Yeah, the twins. Legend. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so the poster was obviously because the film is fine. I think it's an excellent performance, but in an otherwise okay-ish film.
It elevates his performance, elevates the material.
Yeah. So for people not aware, the Craze were a crime, for England, infamous.
They were small town. They were small time criminals who, for some reason, have a big reputation.
Yeah, well, because obviously we just don't have that kind of mafioso sort of glamorous kind of gangster sort of culture. Anyhow, and they ran protection rackets essentially, didn't they? I think a bit of.
And the fact they were twins, that was a big.
Yeah,
thing.
so actually that's very true. So the fact that they were twin brothers, Ronnie and Reg, and so in this film, often they'll have actors who look alike, or for example, there was a version with the Kemp brothers from Spandau Ballet, which that's quite an edgy film. It's quite a credible film.
It's not bad. Actually. It's all right.
But that had so they obviously look alike. They're not twins. But for this film, they had Tom Hardy playing both twins, and obviously that was the real selling point because obviously he's a very popular actor, and so that was the big marketing thing that was like, oh, it's seamless. You can't see that obviously they're just we're not doing shoulder over the shoulder kind of crap. And so the poster was the two of them stood together, striking their gangster poses, 4 and 5 star reviews, all that sort of stuff, quotes, great thing, Tom Hardy's brilliant, blah, blah, blah. But between the heads of the two Tom Hardys was a 3-star. But the way they positioned it, it looked like it was a 5-star that then they had simply imposed, and they had to sort of fess up to it because someone, they asked the reviewer about, or I think it was the reviewer came forward and said, I didn't give this 5 stars, I gave it 3. And then, it came out that they realised what they'd done is they positioned it. So the way the eye, the brain fills in the blanks, looked at that scanning and going, oh, it's 5 stars, but it's just the other 2 are hidden behind the head.
Well, at least they're doing something,
Yeah, I mean, the comedian Michael McIntyre once confessed that he put on a poster, 5 stars. What he didn't reveal at the time, but he did confess too much later, was that it was 5 stars out of 10 stars.
I was going to say 5 1-star reviews. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. That's how you do it.
5,
but also critics do things so they will have jokes about who can get. So Jonathan Ross, I think it's for Batman Forever. His quote is, "It's the greatest film ever made." But it's because it was done as a joke. I think it was a bet between him and I think I can't remember the exact circumstances. So whether it was just let's see who can get the most enthusiastic quote on a mediocre film. Or
I mean, it would surprise them to be a thing where you pay a celebrity to say they like your movie.
Yeah, but of course, it's like anything, isn't it? It's like, oh, this is the because I'm drinking gin and tonic. They'll just say, I'm trying to think of a famous person. Yeah, this is the best gin in the world. I love it. #ad, because that's all you have to do now. On social media, so you have to put you have to acknowledge that it's an ad.
What are you drinking today, Andrew?
This is Hendrick's gin, and if they'd like to sponsor me, I'd be very happy with that.
I could say it's one of the finest drinks in the world.
Oh yeah, it's delicious and refreshing.
Charles, what are you drinking?
Kronenberg.
Water. Oh,
yeah, I thought it was a Kronenberg there.
Oh dear.
What about you?
I watched the other day. I watched the Batman.
Oh yeah.
I got it on Batman. Blu-ray. Yeah, Robert Pattinson Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 12-year-old Batman, basically.
Yeah,
moody,
he's about 30 in real life.
Oh, the world's terrible. The world's not terrible, mate. You're a billionaire. You can do what you want. What are you miserable for?
But they sort of
have you seen it?
Yeah. I saw it in the bloody cinema.
Well, that's kind of what the film is about. The fact that, dude, come on, you had all this money. I know your parents were killed, but get over it.
But I'm sure a couple of times he did flick his hair. It was that level of emo.
Well, but I think they're very much leaning in with him.
It's critical of that. I think I thought it was a good film. I thought it was close to being great.
It was 2/3 of a really good film, and then the third act, you're like, what is this? Why is it the Poseidon Adventure suddenly? Spoiler alert, everyone.
There was a point where the pace just stopped. The film just stopped for a bit, and I was like, I'm really enjoying this. This is really good.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah. Really, wow, the visual bits, I'm really enjoying it. It's really well made.
Yeah, it looked good.
Cinematography, sound design, wow, it's good performances, really onto it. And there was a bit sort of near, when they start, there was a bit literally about 2 hours in where the film just stopped, and I'm like,
Is it when he goes to see him in jail? Spoilers.
yeah, bits. Yeah, it sort of got like that when they arrested Falcone and stuff, and I was just
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, cool. And then there was literally a bit was like, and I was like, haven't seen Catwoman in a bit. I've forgotten she's in the film. And then Catwoman like appeared like 2 seconds later. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like the writers suddenly went, oh yeah, shit, Catwoman hasn't been in for a bit. Oh, we better have the next scene. It's like, oh, okay, right, there she is. And then the third act just came out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh, God,
The thing I like,
It was too long. It was too long.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was
So sort of, because it is relatively recent, so we'll say, because I didn't do any spoilers with Dominion, I don't think particularly. So spoiler alert: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the bit where they have the sort of Riddler copycat incel kind of guys with the sniper rifles, that I thought was kind of interesting. So I'm like, just do that. I don't need the flooding, because also if they're in the place where the mayor is and all these other people are, they don't need the flooding. Because wasn't she meant to be in there to celebrate her victory, the mayor?
Yeah.
So I was like, so you don't need the flooding to herd these people in.
It's a mass shooting thing, I get it.
Yeah,
you know
it was just
you have
weird.
An event,
I was
there's
like,
a mass shooting thing
yeah,
planned.
it was just.
But what did you think about the actual Batman actor, his thing? Then?
I enjoyed him. I thought he was
all
good.
right.
Yeah.
You didn't think he's too emo-y?
During the trailer, I saw him and he was just walking around with his fucking mouth flapping open. Going, and I thought, oh, okay.
But I liked.
But he was
Sorry,
all right.
James,
But
I
I thought
interrupted
that was going to say. But I thought he was all right. Like I
Too young.
liked him.
It's too young.
He wasn't big enough,
Yeah.
like maybe, but he was ninja-y and small. But then the choices for Batman have been out of left field usually. You know, like sort of, you know, Keaton and Val Kilmer and Christian Bale. Like there's always been question mark. People have gone, really? This is Batman? This is the new Batman? Like James Bond, they've always gone, really? You've gone with this guy?
Affleck, I thought when he was fucking huge, pardon my French, but he was absolutely massive, and they had him like, you know, pulling tires on ropes and stuff. You know, I like that sort of, you know, that build of Batman. But for me, I felt it was okay with Rob Pattinson because it was sort of, because it was meant to be like year 2, wasn't it? So in the sort of Batman mythos, it's so ridiculous that we're talking about like, well, that's actually what's happened. It's like, no, it's not arsehole, because somebody just made it up. Like, and they retcon shit all the time. But broadly speaking, is the idea he goes off as sort of a teenager, doesn't he? Trains with the League of Assassins and come back in his early mid-20s, something like that.
Yeah. But that was the thing, that it was too. He didn't. His age didn't fit that jaded sort of. You know, that's too soon.
I don't know. I felt that was kind of emo-y. I thought that was okay.
He should have been a bit more positive being at that age. You can't be that jaded at that age.
But I think that was the journey for the character, wasn't it? That he's becoming, instead of I am vengeance, he's becoming I am, you know, because of the, I mean, it was a little a bit sort of thickly laid on, you know, with him leading,
holding the torch, literally. I am leading the way with the lights.
It was like
Lord of the Rings.
It did feel like, you know, Basil Exposition was going to pop up and go, "This, ladies and gentlemen, is a metaphor." But it was I enjoyed it. I mean,
it looked great. You're right.
Yeah,
it looked
stunning.
good, the way it was
Stunning
done.
to watch.
Who did?
And
Who
there
filmed
was some
it?
good visual storytelling. Like I like the bit with the whole kid and stuff, and like the bit with I think who was it? The mayor gets killed at the beginning, and then he keeps on sort of having this weird kind of looks with the kid and stuff, and you get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to go through the origin story again, but you just get it with this, with how he's viewing that kid.
When it was Batman when it was 7, but the detective is Batman, that was an excellent film.
That was great.
And you know, and like I say, I think the incel stuff was kind of interesting. You know, the snipers, they let Paul Dano go full Paul Dano, and that's often that's a risk you take sometimes with Paul. You know, I was saying to someone else,
all the dice.
He's sort of the new. Although I say that he's probably about 40 odd, but he's kind of like a new Nick Cage, in that you can't ever watch them and go, oh, well, he's not trying, he's just phoning this in. But sometimes you're like, do you know what? I kind of wish he'd phoned this in a little bit, because then it would be in absolute. You know, once he started going, sorry, apologies to Kerem on the sound, but when he started going, Ave Maria, I'm looking creepily at the camera, I was like, oh, we've gone full Dano here.
Which is a shame, because
it was good up
scene
until
was so good, because that scene where you thought, oh, he knows,
they tricked you, didn't they? That and you felt what Batman felt,
and you're like, oh snap, he knows Batman's identity, because you've seen the thing earlier, and you're like, oh snap, oh what, and then you realise through the scene he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about, and then the Riddler starts talking, and then the Riddler realizes, oh, Batman doesn't have a clue what I'm talking about with all the plan that I've got as well. So it completely flips, and that's
I was surprised at a couple of things in there for a film to make you go, oh. Like you hardly ever get that.
There was some nice twists and turns in it. I thought it was just like I didn't need the Poseidon Avenger bullshit, and I was just like, it's meant to be like, oh, he saved all these people in the dam. I'm like, well, probably about 100,000 people have drowned here, or crushed by the, there's just a tidal wave in New York. They would have been bobbing
floating
along
face down, and I'm like, there's dozens of them. But he's like, I saved this one though.
Take the kids, everyone.
The only other problem I had with it is this ongoing thing of, and I should let it go, but you've got an 8 stone, 5 foot 1 woman just throwing blokes around.
Well, I suppose again, it was a sort of ninja type agile.
Nah, it just looked weird. It's just like, that's a child. It's basically an 8 stone. I mean, again, I think
Zoe Kravitz is probably about 40, but.
Yeah, but the size, I just thought, you can't keep doing this. You've got to eventually have somebody that looks like they could...
Yes, I'm trying to think if they've done iterations. I feel the Catwoman in year 1 was kind of quite muscular, wasn't she?
Here's the thing, right? Because I don't know enough about the films, but and when I saw this at the time, I just thought, well, okay, so it's a Batman film. What was I complaining about? But now looking back at like what Batman means and the story and all that, how at the time was the one with Schwarzenegger? Because that must have been like pissing.
Iceman, come out.
Was that with like what's his name, Bane, being that sort of
Frankenstein monster?
Yeah, that was
that must have been like a real pissing on the. How did that get? What was the story with that happening?
Well, it's considered to be one of the worst films ever made. Yeah.
Oh, but it's one of those films that it is awful, but it's genuinely, because some films are bad, and you're like, you'll get half an hour. I mean, I've written some like that. You get half an hour in and you go, this is too much now. I came into this with it. But that is a film that is hypnotically bad.
Yeah, but what was
watchable? It's very watchable.
Who's the director?
Yeah.
Who's the director?
Joel Schumacher. But they were delighted. Batman Forever made... which is actually, when you watch it, it's not great, but it's a fun kind of watch.
Was it before people started taking them seriously? Was that what it was? It didn't matter.
Certainly. But then it's also post Burton, so you got to think it is kind of reasonably serious. But the problem was that you had 89 Batman, which I actually love. I think that's fantastic. Really, I think it is like watching a work of art. You look at that and you like someone walks into a set and you just think, Christ, that is a stunning set.
What one was that?
That's the one with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. It's just called Batman. Batman 89. Have you not seen? Oh, it's fantastic.
Really? I thought that would have been down the lower end of.
Like, no, it is fantastic.
It's basically what you think of Batman. It's basically the first.
It's the modern.
It put all the image of how you think Gotham, how you think Batman should look, the Batcar, Joker.
Who was Batman?
It was Michael Keaton, and he's great in it. But and then they did, but there was protesting. There were people, this is pre-internet, so they couldn't, it wouldn't be like the vitriol is now. But there were people were picketing Warner Brothers, saying, because he was known as a comedy guy. So, he'd done Beetlejuice and Mr. Mum and all those kind of things. And he is an excellent comic actor. But he's great as Batman, and they're bringing him back for this Flash film, although whether that will see the light of day. But which perhaps we'll come to in a moment. But it's really excellent. So they did that, and it was an enormous blockbuster hit. I think in today's money it made well over $1 billion. I don't.
It was huge. It was a big
absolutely massive.
And toys and merchandise and everything.
But and back at the time where it was like, this film's a 15, but we'll sell a Happy Meal for kids. The RoboCop toys and Terminator toys, and these are hard 18s. Anyhow, they did that, and I wouldn't say it's particularly violent. It's kind of menacing more, which is probably why it's a 15. Maybe there's some swearing in it that I don't recall. It's an odd. Now it will probably be a 12A, I think, but it's kind of menacing, and I think that often puts the rating up. Batman Returns has got like Danny DeVito is a weird, sexually aggressive penguin, and that was a 12. It was one of those films, I think, that either was the first 12A, one of the early 12As, or introduced the 12A, and people went, this should not be a 12A. Right. There's a bit where he meets them because they have him running for mayor, which hilariously is a plot stolen from the original, the Burgess Meredith version of, quack, 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 quack. They have that in the 60s Penguin. Has Burgess Meredith running for mayor as the Penguin. Burgess Meredith is a man in a top hat with a monocle and stuff, and he's wearing a tuxedo. And yes, he goes quack, 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 quack. But you go, fine, whatever. So he's a kooky guy. That somebody's plan in Batman Returns is, let's have the Penguin run for mayor. He looks like a fat egg dripping slime, He bites off when he meets his campaign
to start
team.
with, he's Danny DeVito.
He's Danny DeVito in a weird like fat suit. Yeah,
with.
But they make him
I like
grotesque.
Danny DeVito,
but they make him be grotesque in the film.
Yeah.
So he's got on this enormous fat suit, and obviously we're told, fat is bad, fat is evil, etc. You might as well just have a scar. He's got this kind of grotesque, long, pointy nose. He's dripping slime the whole time, and he's always kind of sweaty and greasy. When he meets his campaign team, he first bumps into some woman, and they're talking about like. I think prior to that, they're talking about filling the gap in terms of the polls, and he bumps into her. She's an attractive woman. Then she walks off, and he goes, "Oh, I'd like to fill her gap," and and in this really creepy
different time.
he bites off. He's eating fish as he eats his campaign team, like raw fish, just biting their heads off. Somebody makes a joke that he doesn't like, so he bites their nose off. And yet they continue this thinking, this will be this will be our mayoral candidate. Very
it's a bit
strange.
Before its time. That's a bit before its time.
Yeah, maybe it could be
like,
Trumping. Whatever. They'd be like, he tells it like it is. He bites your nose off. Very strange film. You've got Catwoman in a weird like S&M outfits and burning people with acid, or I think Batman burns her. There's a plot to murder babies. The film opens with them throwing, which is the Penguin because he's mutated, his rich family throw him in a bassinet down the river into the sewage, and you go, well, this for kids.
Like
and there was a Happy Meal tied into
in
this.
The basket,
So the film was a box office success. Critical reviews were kind of mixed, a bit like the first one. I think it's a Tim Burton film, so you're either on board or you're not. So big success, but lots of huge lobbying, complaints from parents groups saying, this traumatized my child, and rightly so, but you should have checked what this film was. So Tim Burton's out of the film. I think they were going to bring him back for 3. He decided he didn't want to do it, and so they make Batman Forever, which is a lot more cartoony. I mean, it still has some fucked up moments. Obviously, Two-Face has his face melted off, the flying Graysons get killed. That's Robin's family. The plunge
it's got
to
Jim
their
Carrey
death.
in it.
Yeah, Jim Carrey in a vaguely pornographic leotard. You can sort of see all dimension. There's nothing left to the imagination. Anyhow, but it was less critically well received, I think, but an enormous box office success. Not as big as the first one, but often with sequels. Now we're used to sequels making more money, but back then, as long as it made half as much as the first one,
diminishing returns.
And the studio were very, very happy. Obviously, they sold loads of Happy Meals off the back of it and all that kind of thing. So they make the 4th one, and they're like, go more. That's what worked. Let's make it cartoony and shit. The studio were delighted with the rushes. So Joel Schumacher, as it's important to have someone going, do you know what, actually maybe we don't do this, but all he's hearing is how wonderful it is. The studio delighted. They're ready to fast track a 5th film that apparently was going to be darker, because they're like, hey, we've made this a bit kooky and a bit kiddie, so we're going to do the 5th one we're going to have the Scarecrow in it, and it's going to be a weird thing where he gets toxin. They'll bring back Jack Nicholson, just drive up to his house with a dump truck full of gold bars. Jack Nicholson would come back as Phantom Dreams. And then it tanked. It completely tanked.
So it was just a full-on, let's make this for kiddie money.
Very much so.
Toys.
And he said his direction on set famously was, remember everyone, we're making a cartoon. We're making a cartoon.
Yeah.
But that's
we're
what he's told.
comic.
Yeah,
not a
but
comic book, we're making a comic.
Joel Schumacher can make serious films. He can make grown-up films. You think Lost Boys is probably his... Pun, sorry?
8mm.
Yeah, 8mm is. Do not take the children to see 8mm.
No, like that's about
8mm has like.
It's
it doesn't actually have, but it has like very convincing.
8mm with
it's got like snuff. No, that's. I know the one you mean. I think that's called 9mm, isn't it? No, that's 8 Mile. But there is a film with a rapper. I think it's DMX is in a film.
I thought you were talking about Eminem.
No, that's 8 Mile.
That's 8 Mile.
8mm involves like snuff films, and
as in filming 8mm.
Well, it's an 8mm film. Yes, sorry. So nothing to do with guns, but it's like him investigating like the seedy world of snuff films, and you're like, well, I'm just going to go drink some bleach to clear myself up. But yeah, and he made Lost Boys, which is kind of like, it's that sort of weird 80s thing of like, this has got children in it, but they also get eaten by maggots and vampires. Made A Time to Kill, which is a real knockabout comedy. Yeah, that's fun. I mean, it's a good film, but it is just like
soft take on racism.
Tigerland, yeah, exactly. It doesn't pull any part. So most of his films, I would say, are broadly kind of adult. Sounds like he makes porn films, but as in, they're not silly films. So he was told, he made a film that was kind of, Batman Forever is sort of kiddie-ish, but it's kind of a probably more for all the family type fare. And then he's told, ramp it up.
It got me again the other day. I was just walking past the TV. They had the Star Trek TOS, and it was on 20 minutes through. I thought, let me just look at this again, and that was it. I sat there and watched the whole thing, and the whole time I hate it. I don't know if I love it. I hate it. It's fantastic. It's
some
awful.
of them are great. Some of them are great.
You've got to look
beyond
the production value.
I don't know what
look beyond the acting and just think about the concepts, the themes, the ideas, and the writing.
But it's the pajamas, it's the toys, it's the overacted, it's the colour. It's
There's only one that I find genuinely unwatchable. So most of them are, particularly in the later season, although there's still some gems in there. But because I think Journey to Babel is like season 3. There are some, and Let That Be Your Last Battlefield is season 3. There are some gems in there still in season 3, but it is you can really feel the decline in terms of because they had strictures against them. They were basically like, you're probably going to be cancelled, so we're slashing the budget, and you've got less time to film and everything else, etc., etc. Famously, obviously, Spock's brain is in that season, and that's pretty
okay. Yeah,
but I'm not even sure it's that season. There's one, and it's I forget even the name of it. It is awful. It's where some guy fights his antimatter self through a corridor, which is literally in space time. Which is just a film that they'll use the set and then sort of superimpose. I'm not entirely sure how they do it, but it's like in film, the film negative effect.
Okay.
They just have that, but it's the guest actor's fault. I'm afraid his performance is, and this is saying something because we're talking about Star Trek: The Original.
Which is hammy.
His performance is insufferable. It's like he hates everyone everywhere, and he knows it, and it. It's one of the worst performances I've. God rest him soul. I'm sure.
This was the one where the Jack the Ripper had come back as evil.
Oh, I quite like that one. That's corny as hell.
Right at the end, where the guy that has to attack everyone, and it cuts to a long shot with a bloke with a sort of bald cap on.
And he's really small, isn't he, as well?
Starts kicking everyone.
Isn't it the guy who's the voice of Piglet, I seem to recall?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but you can even hear it in his voice. You're like, is this Piglet? Is Piglet Jack the Ripper?
Oh God!
It's just... But that one's awful fun. That's really so. I don't think we need to do a spoiler alert on a Star Trek.
Yeah.
So the idea is that there's this evil entity that's been traveling space, through all eternity, and it possesses people and causes them to commit murders. So I think it starts out on Earth somehow. They never explain. Well, what was it doing on Earth? And the idea is it's sort of they're able to track the times. That its journey
and
out
they think
into space.
The Scotty, he's doing.
Yeah, they think. Well, Scotty. So Scotty murders some women is the plot, but actually he's possessed by this entity. So obviously he's absorbed.
So that's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, but he's sort of. You go. Well, he's not fine. But the idea is that at one point this entity was Jack the Ripper. It sort of feeds. I can't remember. It's very. It's one of those ones where you normally think of Star Trek as quite progressive, and then every sort of third or fourth episode of the original series, you go, "Oh, we've taken a backslide here."
Well, they always do a reference, like they'll be out
sexist. Like
it feeds off the terror of women. Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, you look at Star Trek and you think, "Oh, this is particularly the original series is very progressive." So you've got a black woman. So it's the twofer, and I know that probably people maybe heard that and thought that sounds flippant, but this is the 1960s. This is still, we've got segregation. It's late 60s, so there were greater rights for black people. But that's a bit like, well, they weren't property at this point. And again, that's not flippant. I'm talking about actual lived history that this is.
She gives a wonderful story about when Martin Luther King asked her to carry on doing the series.
Yeah, because she was like...
They said that Martin Luther King approached her in a restaurant, and she said, wow, you're a hero. We love Star Trek. It's one of the few shows I let my kids watch on TV. They stay up late for it. We all love it. You're excellent representative for black people on telly. One of the positive role models. And she said, well, I don't know. This is after the first series. Well, I don't know. I'm thinking about quitting and maybe doing some stage work and stuff. And he said, please don't. Because you are literally one of the only one of the real positive role models. Please carry on doing it.
And it's
she decided to carry on doing it because Martin Luther King asked her to.
And it's hard to for example, obviously George Takei is a Japanese man, and this is in living. He grew up in an internment camp. So again, I'm not assuming anyone knows anything, and I don't mean that in a rude way. It's just you can't know everything. So during World War II, Japanese Americans that is to say people of Japanese heritage who lived in America, were interred in camps, which is as awful as it sounds, quite often in sports stadiums, cramped in because they were obviously seen as potentially, a fifth column, sort of, that they might betray the USA because of America's war with Japan. So they were interred in camps.
But it's such a horrific, pointless. It does nothing. That's
but
more
you hear
political.
that as when you go, oh, when was this? Like the 1750s?
Yeah.
You go, no, the 1940s.
And you go, they must have done that to Italian Americans and Italian Germans as well. No.
Yes, this these yellow people, and I can say I feel comfortable saying that as a person of yellow heritage, that it's like, oh well, we can't lock up the Italians and think it's because too many of them are are in our army. I mean, interestingly, there was I forget the terminology because it was like Issei and Nisei were how they were categorized, but the US unit with the highest proportion of bravery medals and medals of honor and whatnot was a unit composed entirely of Japanese who fought for the Americans. So they had to be they were a unit comprised entirely of Japanese sort of second or third generation immigrants who fought in Europe, because obviously they wouldn't have them, for again, part of this sort of bias. They didn't have them fighting in the Far East. I mean, also there's a greater risk of friendly fire there. So they had them fighting in Europe, and that was the most decorated unit
because they got sent to do the shitty jobs as well.
Because they were sent to
do the hard stuff. Yeah.
So it's interesting that, but yeah, Star Trek. If we swing it back to Star Trek, so broadly speaking, it is progressive and it has all these moments, but there are times you go, oops, swing and a miss.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this feels like a show made in the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, the very last episode is really quite embarrassing. It's a shame there's some good performances in it. But
really, what was the last one?
The very last broadcast episode, I'm not sure if it's the very last produced episode, but certainly the last broadcast episode, is that I'm embarrassed to tell you this, it's a bit like talking about some film with blackface. It's that kind of level of...
Song of the South, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, I'm only telling you what happened.
Yeah.
So it's embarrassing, is that... I think it's called Turnabout Intruder, is that obviously through some wibbly-wobbly technology, a woman swaps her brain with Kirk.
Oh, and she freaks out because she can't take the command responsibility.
And the whole emphasis, because she basically wanted to be a captain, and again, I'm embarrassed here. I shit you not, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. In Star Trek, they had a thing that women couldn't be captains because they didn't have the emotional stability to be captains, the sort of level-headedness. I can't recall the exact terminology, but it is. I'm genuinely embarrassed that this was something that people went, 1960. Yeah, so because of that, and that's how the crew work out that Kirk has been, had his brain supplanted, because initially. Obviously, Kirk's brain in this woman's body is saying, I'm Captain Kirk, I'm the thing, and very few people believe him because I think the character is said to be unstable at that point. They think, oh, it's a trick, this rascally woman. And
it's that time of the month, isn't it, where she pretends to be Captain Kirk.
They might as well just say that. Women, they might as well just say, because it's so embarrassing. It's so bad.
Well, in the Jack the Ripper one that I watched, Spock literally says, because women are more easily terrified.
Yeah, and it was just like, yikes. Yeah, there's so many moments in it. I mean, it's
particularly the gender stuff, and that's the thing.
Yeah,
it's like racially they're kind of cool, and like
much
nations
more,
they don't care.
Much
the gender stuff is still very much there.
Yeah. There's lots of like. Sorry, go on.
Talking of women's rights, so that the Roe versus Wade thing.
Yeah.
So that's gone through now. So you've got about 30 days before you become a murderer if you do anything. Do you know what I heard? When I think it was yesterday. JP Morgan Chase, the company, have come out and said that if any of their employees need to have an abortion, they're going to pay for them to travel to a city where they can have it done for free.
Yeah,
there's also things. That's quite big to come out and say that.
Yeah, but several states had things in place to say we're gonna, because obviously it doesn't mean that you can't have abortions. It just means it's now down. It's no longer a federal law.
Yes. So all the southern states forget it.
So obviously but for example, California said that we have laws that are saying you can have an abortion. You can also travel from another state and not be prosecuted.
But that means you can't go back to that state.
No, I think they've got some weird Sorry, weird
right.
is the wrong choice of word.
They had
They've got some
riots. They had
loophole.
riots in
Yeah.
California yesterday, though, like from pro-life people.
When you think about society trying to move forward, you go, we're going backwards. Like, what a waste. You want to really sit with somebody. You know the people that are against this are like somebody you couldn't sit with and have a rational discussion with. They'll just be that glazer. You know they're literally delusional. And they're changing of laws. And you think, Jesus
Well,
Christ.
I believe it's, I don't have the facility to look this up, but I believe it's because obviously it's the Supreme Court that's done it, and certainly one, but I believe it's 2 members of that Supreme Court who incidentally are appointed for life. 2 of them are sex offenders.
Yeah.
You go, oh, okay, because Kavanaugh was one, wasn't he?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
well,
and
God.
I don't recall who the other person is, but
Well,
sorry for the benefit of thing alleged.
Yeah.
But
apparently, I heard this in a podcast, so I need to check this. But they said in the ruling at the end of that, so the judicial sort of overview at the end of the end of that ruling to disband Roe v. Wade. They also said that they specifically said there was 2 laws that they now, because they'd overturned Roe v. Wade, they now had grounds to overturn these other 2 laws. That was the protection against anti-sodomy laws.
Yeah. That'd be the next one, yeah.
So states could make basically gay sex illegal with a criminal offence, and also contraception, even between married people.
Yeah.
So even between a married couple. I mean,
let's just slide right back down the bottom of the pile.
it just shows that this has nothing to do with like the abortion laws. Kind of really don't have anything to do with that. It's mostly about oppressing women. And it's mostly about taking women's rights away.
But they're cliches. There's in the January 6th committee thing that's been going on at the moment. They released like all the people that had asked for a pardon before they'd been done from Trump, and it was all the faces. It was the Matt Gaetz, all the people that's out there screaming
the
that
suspects, isn't it?
Yeah, you're not living your life properly. You're not pure as me. You're not this. You're not that. That have all got the bloody hidden. I mean, the fact that him and Marjorie Taylor, who both asked for a pardon from Trump before they'd done anything, which makes you more guilty than somebody that actually pleads guilty. You've got less defense, because they say with a guilty person, you could say, well, you made me say I was guilty. If you're asking for a pardon, what did you want the pardon for?
Well, that's preemptive then. You know what I mean? It's not like, in the heat of the moment, or I did something rash or whatever. No, you're planning to do something.
All the most ardent, angry ones were the ones that are asking for him. And the fact that him and Marjorie Taylor are going around talking about the paedophile rings, when he's literally been investigated for about the 17-year-old. There was a thing that just got released recently with Tucker Carlson, who's the main people not living right, non-America, blah, blah. And they just released a radio show that it was on a while ago, talking about 2 14-year-old girls. He brought up his daughter as a reference for, and they were saying so. And the other guy was talking about...
Was that the Bubba the Love Sponge?
Yeah, that was it, radio show.
Ago,
and he's talking to him, and he's talking about, so, you've got 14-year-old girls pleasuring themselves. And he literally says, well, I'd pay to see that. And you think...
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, he says, I'd pay to see that. Like...
It's an old thing. He did one of these shock jock radio programs.
So
he was on a radio show. They were talking about
awful stuff.
Yeah, it
so
was
he's
just
saying he'd like to watch 14-year-old girls masturbate.
He literally said, "Well, I'd pay to see that." Like 2 14-year-old girls. He just in the paragraph before he talked about his daughter being 14. Well, if it wasn't my daughter, hey, I'd pay to see that. And it was just now you just hold that there.
Yeah.
Look at
you
Ivanka.
fast forward.
Isn't she beautiful? Yeah, I'd totally date her if I wasn't her dad. I'd totally date her.
You take Tucker Carlson, they just forward him into his radio show, which is like a cartoon character of a person telling you, "Oh, those people over here," and not.
Well,
and you
always
go,
those ones, isn't it?
You're literally that type of person. You're literally projecting everything that you are onto everyone else.
Yeah.
Why you? It's like the Marjorie Taylor Greene. You think, why are you so angry? You've had a good life.
Quite a few of these QAnon people have come out that have turned out to be pedos, haven't they?
But yeah, it's all the same.
It's a little bit like it's a little bit like that. You were saying about the guy who was the bouncer who said, "I'm not equating the specifics of these elements," but you said, "Oh, there was a guy who was always making gay jokes, and then he turned out to be gay." And I'm not saying that.
No, I know what you mean. But it's that cartoony.
People who are obsessed about anti-gay stuff.
Yeah,
they often.
Well,
get
it's like
caught,
Putin, isn't it? Putin and Mike Pence are clearly two. I'm sure. And again, it's just one of those things like, No one cares. Just go. If you want to go have it off with a dude, do that. To be
Yeah,
fun, be
especially
happy.
then you get to the southern states with the religious evangelicals and
Oh,
My
well,
Perfect
all,
Wife,
you know.
and they're all got gay boy.
Oh,
You go,
what was that
come on.
wonderful one? That was the Hungarian dude, wasn't it? Who was like the he
Viktor Orban's. He was like a minister or something, wasn't he?
yeah, he was like, and he was like, he had some, his remit was all about, he was like deputy minister of making sure he beat up all the homeless people.
Yeah,
definitely,
anti-gay activities.
that might as well have been his job title. And then it was like, injured himself jumping out of a window because it'd been busted in the midst of a 14-man, gangbang.
That
or
was
something.
right,
It was
yeah,
a
yeah.
huge pile of
dudes.
It was some
just
ludicrous thing.
It was
And
crazy,
the thing about that is, the thing about that is, it's not the, if you want to get together with 14 other people and have a big crazy orgy, bravo, mazel tov, whatever, fill your boots, have fun, you only live once sort of thing. But it's just the fact that you are, chief director of state homophobia, but also you're like,
But it's the fact that all the ones that are so angry,
They're
and
always
all
the
these
ones
things are
there,
coming
you're
out.
like,
So then
look.
when you got the Marjorie Taylor Greene, as I said before, who hasn't really had a bad life, but you're angry at everyone. You go,
Yeah.
are you hiding something? Is there something you're not happy with that you're
I
projecting?
just think
Daddy
what's in
hugged you
your
too much
internet
and not
history,
that sort of
you know what I
thing,
mean?
yeah.
Like, honestly, like...
But it's just cartoon charactery. Like you're the worst of everyone. All this Fox News telling people be scared of this, hate that. You're the worst type of person. You're the one right at the bottom of the pile.
Well, it's always that thing, isn't it? Have you ever met a happy conspiracy theorist?
Yeah, it's always a projection of something. What are you not? You're not happy. Nobody on their
Yeah.
wedding day or who's won the lottery is out spouting hate. It's just everything didn't work out.
Be
Who do
amazing
I
if someone
hate?
at their wedding day was like,
well, yeah,
I just
exactly.
the bride and groom decided to write their own vows, and then they just lift off
By
this
the way,
pile about
Trump won the election.
Yeah, we
Yes,
both.
it was all a hoax.
I love you because we
Oh,
both
God.
hate, and then just reel off all the people that they mutually
But
hate.
it's so funny just to see them one after the other. Just
Yeah, they're all
everything.
that, man.
Anyway,
It's-
right.
It's so transparent as well. It's always that. You're just like, Mike Pence talks a lot about how much he hates gay people and wants them
Yeah,
electrocuted.
exactly, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just going to set a timer on this one.
Just Trump talk about drain the swamp. He's a bad guy. You go, oh,
Yeah.
for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll end up it. So, was anything else been going on, Andrew? What's been going on? Anything new? Did you move in your house? You said you was getting a flat. You're buying a flat.
I bought a flat.
Is that where you are now?
Yes.
Whereabouts in London?
Sutton.
Oh, okay. It's all right, is it?
Yeah,
Settled in
nice,
okay?
yeah. Been here, a month, I think? Yeah.
Oh, just a month. No problems.
None so far.
Oh, that's all right. What else have you been still doing? Your script writing? Anything weird coming up? You been doing anything odd?
No, not really. No.
You got the beard going there.
Got the beer going. Had a nice bout of gastroenteritis last week.
Oh, really? What was that from? Do you know?
Don't know. I
Just a
think
bug?
I ate something. No, I think I decided to. I don't know for certain, but I was like, oh, I'm going to go. Rather than buy from Megacorp burglars or whatever, I decided, I'll just get, while I'm out in town, I'll frequent a small, independent local cafe, and then no good deed goes unpunished. So I then spent the next 4 days.
An area the other day, and it was one of the ones that as you're driving, you go, it's a bit rough around here. There's a newsagent that's halfway. It's open, but it looks like it's shut with the thingies down. And then
Unlock
I
it.
looked
They offer a good price on unlocking phones, do they?
Yeah.
By any chance?
And then I looked to my right, and there's like a really bad Chinese restaurant, like really bad. It's like everything yellow stained, where they just have. And the name of it was just this comedy. The name of it was Shangri-La. I thought the worst name you could put on you're the opposite. Maybe it was once in the 70s.
Yeah, it might be like, we are the best Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, the
that's
film
it,
had just come out. That was the last time
maybe.
it got a liquor paint on it. Shangri-La. I just made me chuckle. I thought, take that down. That just you're mocking yourself.
Paradise Cafe.
Yeah, call it the
like,
Golden
no.
Harvest. Don't put that on it because you're just mocking yourself there.
Yeah.
Anyway, Charles, anything else been going on in your world?
No. Like, watch the guy get sectioned. That was
That's quite good.
interesting.
That's quite good. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Put that in your
That's
diary.
enough for one day.
You didn't immediately pull out your phone and start videoing it for Instagram or anything?
No, because I had a bit more respect than that. But
Yeah.
I was waiting for my mum to come out of the toilet, and I was certainly watching without watching.
How was your removal from Instagram been going? Beneficial?
Which one of us? Me?
You, Andrew.
Yeah.
Charles, he don't know what Instagram is.
I thought he used social media just to get into a fight with with
No,
EDL.
he had an egg. He had an egg and about 4 followers.
I had a bunch of Iranian anti-Israeli guys for some reason who had like targets. So their like backgrounds were like the Israeli flag with like targets on them. And like
It's an odd
sniper rifle
niche.
crosshairs.
What did you like that you didn't realise
Yeah,
was something
exactly,
dodgy? So you flagged down?
I sent some stuff. I was doing lots of stuff to like conservative politicians, but also I did a couple of things about like Joe Biden. So I was just about him mostly.
And for some reason, the
sleepy
Iranian
and,
Revolutionary Guard decided to follow you.
the Iranian troll bot farm.
Oh,
like,
I see.
picked me up. I don't know.
One word, and that's all it took. It
Yeah,
got you.
yeah.
I was watching,
So,
reading
like,
something the other day, and it was looking back at the earliest days of the internet, and they brought up some funny moments of like the when old people started to use it. And there were some politicians who had mentioned the fact of they were complaining about the internet, not understanding that the more you click on, the more it shows the things you've clicked on. And these politicians are complaining because there's all these things about Eastern European brides kept popping up on my computer. But I don't know what to say to them.
That is the that's that
You
one.
haven't realised.
Keep on getting all these pop-ups for gay porn. It
Yeah.
won't stop coming. And I
Yeah,
just
they were complaining that these things get popping up.
That's that
Someone did.
absolutely
You don't know what you don't know. It's
Yeah.
great.
brilliant joke in what's it called in this country, and this is a little
Oh, yeah.
rude, ladies and gentlemen. But so it's a Silver Surfers Club. They they go to this old people's club, and they're using the internet and whatnot. And one of the older people teases another older person about the fact that you can't send emails on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Joking with him, and one of the main characters, Curtin, who's helping out, he's volunteering to help out there, goes over and says, stop winding him up. And he goes, well, I'm not doing anything. Stop winding him up, or I'll tell the vicar who's organised the games. I'll tell the vicar about your search history. He goes, why? What's the problem? He goes, yeah, I've seen you looking up big jugs. And he goes, well, I need big jugs. I need that for my watering, to water my plants. And he goes, oh yeah? What do you need a shave fanny for?
Oh god, it must be hard if you're old and the internet must be hard. That must be you really are
How do
locked
old
out.
people look up porn? Is that the...
I assume it's
they-
like how you look it up when you're 12 years old. You look like beautiful, like sexy naked ladies.
www.boobiesboobiesboobies.com.
Yeah.
'Cause do they
I
have
see
free-
that we've regressed back to Star Trek levels of gender equality.
I don't know. Do they have free classes for old people to?
I think so. Yeah, I think because I think
you're in
that.
trouble if you don't know, like online.
Oh
and
yeah,
all that.
well that's the big target for scams. Both mobile
Right,
phones
yeah,
and older people, and internet is older people,
Yeah.
yeah, if
because
you get
they're a bit more trusting, less cynical.
Yeah,
they don't understand.
yeah.
Don't click the link, because they're like, well, surely if they send me a link, it must be all right, or it says it's from British Gas.
yeah,
Not
there's
knowing that the actual email is
Yeah.
1238793.5 @hotmail.com. But
there was a
because
couple
the header
of
says,
a Travellers got done last year, and it was
Excuse
they
me.
were going into people's homes and saying, look, the thing you've got up there is really dangerous, and it was just the trust. They trusted them more. Oh, they just went, oh, what? Yeah, that could fall down. We can do it for this. Blah blah blah. I thought, oh fucking hell, that's horrendous, isn't it? When you take advantage of goodwill, like you poison goodwill, like honesty. All right, so there you go. That's the show. It's nice to see Andrew back again, smiling away. He's still got his rings on. Do your rings represent anything? They're just fashion accessories.
they represent my love of rings.
Okay. Trying to see if there's anything of reference. What's happened to all your books and your hats?
The hats are
There's not a lot in the background. You've got much in the background to.
here. Well, yeah, because now I have my own place. I can.
Oh, there you
There's
go.
three
Oh,
hats
they were literally within
Andrew,
arm's
three
reach.
hats.
Oh, they are, because I've got a cupboard there and a cupboard there. That's the bed.
Okay.
That's the door, but my books are in the living room. I've got some
Okay.
DVDs on the shelf over here. This is excellent for people just listening and not watching
Yeah.
the video.
Well, we decided to do a home show because I thought I didn't want to pull Charles in again because his back. I wasn't sure his back was up to it again, but I thought it would be a good chance to get you on because you've been so busy doing other things. So that was the show. We had a nice little roundup of things. We've kept you in the know.
we could talk about
In the
current
60s.
affairs.
I have no idea what we're talking about. Like
Jurassic
Star Trek and
Park.
Batman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the show. So anyway, so it's good to see you, Andrew. And to put on a hat for when we close out. Look, put on a hat for when we say
Which
goodbye
hat
to
would
everyone.
you like?
That'd be quite nice. The top one, the blue one.
Blue one. There's a grey
Was
one.
there a dark one?
There's this one.
Yeah, that'll go. That'll do.
There's very.
Pete Doherty, is that the word name?
That's excellent. That's a really nice person to be compared to. Yes.
Why? What's wrong with him?
What isn't?
Oh, I don't know. Does he
He
wear
doesn't
a hat?
have a beard, to be fair. He does wear a hat.
Oh, okay.
And
Well,
that
there
would
you
be
go.
it, though.
It's
So
reformed.
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew in a hat, ladies and gentlemen. There you go.
It's just what you
Right,
want.
well, that was the show. Andrew's got his hat and his rings on. All's right with the world. Well, anyway, so we will be back next week with some more interesting chat and an interview. So thank you very much and goodbye.
Goodbye. Al.
Here's your story, let's begin. The water's fine, come on, dive in. The future's here, it's right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. Welcome to a brighter day. Don't you know it feels good to be alive? You could be larger than life.